I never thought a drunk joke would change my entire life. But there I was, wine glass in hand, giggling with my best friend Sarah as we scrolled through my phone at midnight. The city lights of Chicago glowed through my apartment window, casting shadows across my modest living room. I was 26, working double shifts as a waitress at Marco's Italian restaurant, and completely unprepared for what I was about to do. "Do it," Sarah urged, her eyes sparkling with mischief. "Send it to him. What's the worst that could happen?" The him she referred to was Dante Moretti. The Dante Moretti. Everyone in Chicago knew his name, whispered it with equal parts fear and fascination. He owned half the city's businesses, commanded respect with a single glance, and had a reputation that made hardened criminals tremble. He'd been coming to Marco's for 3 months now, always requesting my section, always leaving tips that could cover my rent, and always watching me with those intense dark eyes that made my stomach flip. "He's dangerous, Sarah," I protested weakly, even as my thumb hovered over the send button. The photo wasn't even that scandalous, just me in my favorite red dress, the one that hugged my curves, with a playful smile and a caption that read, "Thought you might enjoy the view, Mr. Moretti. If you're enjoying this story so far, please hit that like button and subscribe. It really helps me bring you more content like this." "That's exactly why you should do it," Sarah countered. "Live a little, Emma. You've been playing it safe your whole life." She wasn't wrong. My life had been a series of safe choices, careful steps, and responsible decisions. Growing up in foster care had taught me to keep my head down, work hard, and never take risks. But something about Dante made me want to break all my rules. Before I could overthink it, I pressed send. The immediate regret hit me like a truck. "Oh my God, what did I just do?" I gasped, dropping my phone like it had burned me. "Sarah, he's going to think I'm insane. Or worse, he's going to—" My phone buzzed. My heart stopped. Unknown number. Interesting choice, Piccola. Very interesting. My hands shook as I read the message. Sarah squealed, grabbing my arm so hard I knew I'd have bruises. He responded, "Emma, the most powerful man in Chicago just responded to your thirst trap." "This isn't funny," I whispered, though my racing pulse suggested otherwise. What do I say back? Before Sarah could answer, another message appeared. "I hope you're ready for the consequences of teasing a man like me." The words sent electricity down my spine. Part of me wanted to throw my phone out the window and pretend this never happened. The other part, the part that had been carefully locked away for years, wanted to see exactly what those consequences might be. I typed back with trembling fingers. "Just having a little fun, Mr. Moretti. Don't take it so seriously." His response was immediate. "Oh, I'm taking it very seriously, Emma. See you tomorrow at work." The use of my name, the promise in those words, it all felt too real, too intense. I'd started this as a game, a moment of liquid courage and poor judgment. But something told me Dante Moretti didn't play games he didn't intend to win. "You're in trouble," Sarah sang, though her smile had faded slightly. "Seriously, Em, maybe you should call in sick tomorrow." But I knew I couldn't, because despite the fear, despite the voice in my head screaming that this was a terrible idea, I felt more alive than I had in years. Dante Moretti had noticed me, really noticed me, and maybe, just maybe, that was worth the risk. I barely slept that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw his face, sharp cheekbones, perfectly styled dark hair, lips that curved into a smile that promised both pleasure and danger. I'd served him countless meals, poured his whiskey, made small talk about the weather and Chicago sports teams, but I'd never dared to cross the invisible line between server and customer. Until tonight. At 3 a.m., another text arrived. "Can't sleep, Piccola. Neither can I. I keep thinking about that dress, about what you're really asking for. I shouldn't have responded. Every rational thought told me to put down the phone, delete his number, and forget this ever happened. Instead, I typed, 'And what exactly do you think I'm asking for, Mr. Moretti?' 'Everything,' came his reply. And I always get what I want." The sun rose over Chicago, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold. I stood at my window, coffee in hand, watching the city wake up. Somewhere out there, Dante Moretti was probably in his penthouse, running his empire with the same intensity he'd directed at me through those text messages. Part of me wondered if I'd made the biggest mistake of my life. The other part couldn't wait to see what happened next, because for the first time since I could remember, I wasn't playing it safe. I was diving headfirst into something wild, something dangerous, something that might just break me, or save me. The lunch rush at Marco's was in full swing when Dante walked through the door at exactly 12:30 p.m. My hands fumbled with the water pitcher I was carrying, nearly dropping it on poor Mrs. Henderson's lap. He looked even more devastating in daylight. Charcoal suit fitted perfectly to his broad shoulders, white shirt open at the collar, and those eyes scanning the restaurant until they found me. Time seemed to slow as he crossed the dining room. Other patrons instinctively moved out of his way, conversations dropping to whispers. The air itself felt charged, electric, dangerous. My manager, Tony, practically tripped over himself to greet Dante, but he waved him off without breaking eye contact with me. "Your section, I presume?" His voice was smooth velvet wrapped around steel. I swallowed hard, forcing my professional smile. "Of course, Mr. Moretti. Your usual table." "Actually," he said, moving closer until I could smell his cologne, something expensive and intoxicating. "I'd prefer the corner booth today. More privacy." The way he said privacy made heat pool in my stomach. I led him to the secluded booth at the back, acutely aware of his presence behind me, the weight of his gaze on my body. When I turned to hand him the menu, he was already sitting, legs spread in casual dominance, one arm stretched across the back of the booth. "I know what I want," he said, not looking at the menu. "And it's not on this list." My pulse hammered. "The special today is Emma." My name on his lips stopped me cold. "Sit. I'm working," I protested weakly. He raised one eyebrow. "I own this restaurant. Actually, I own the entire building. Sit." That was news to me. I'd always thought Marco, Tony's father, owned this place. But looking at Tony's face across the room, seeing how he deliberately avoided looking our direction, I realized the truth. Dante Moretti owned everything in this neighborhood, including, apparently, my workplace. I slid into the booth opposite him, my heart racing. "Is this about last night? You sent me a photograph at midnight, dressed like Sin, and now you're acting surprised that I want to discuss it." His lips curved into a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "You're either very brave or very foolish, Piccola. Piccola means little one, right?" I deflected. "I'm not little." "No," he agreed, his gaze traveling slowly down my body in a way that made me feel completely exposed, despite being fully clothed. "You're perfect." The compliment stunned me into silence. Men had called me pretty before, cute even, but never perfect, and certainly never with the kind of intensity that suggested Dante had given the matter considerable thought. "Why do you keep coming here?" I asked suddenly. "This isn't exactly the kind of place for someone like you." "Someone like me?" His expression darkened slightly. "What do you think you know about me, Emma?" "Everything and nothing," I wanted to say. I knew what everyone knew. The rumors, the whispers, the reputation. Dante Moretti was the youngest Don in Chicago's history, having taken over his family's operations at 25 after his father's death. He was ruthless, brilliant, and supposedly without mercy when crossed. But I'd also seen the way he treated Marco's elderly mother when she confused him for his father, how he'd slipped a $1,000 bill into the tip jar after learning one of the other waitresses needed surgery she couldn't afford. I'd watched him help a single mother fix her flat tire in the parking lot, getting his expensive suit dirty without complaint. "I think," I said carefully, "that you're more complicated than people give you credit for." Something flickered in his expression. Surprise, maybe, or appreciation. "And you're far too perceptive for a waitress." "Just a waitress now, am I?" I challenged, finding my courage. "Last night I was interesting enough to text back." He leaned forward, closing the distance between us. "Last night you showed me a side of yourself I've been waiting 3 months to see. The real Emma, not the careful one who serves drinks and makes small talk. I want more of her. You don't even know me. Then let me." The words were simple, but the promise behind them was anything but. "Have dinner with me. Tonight." "That's..." I started to refuse, to list all the reasons this was insane, but he cut me off. "Before you say no, understand something." His voice dropped lower, intimate and commanding simultaneously. "I don't ask twice, Emma. I also don't make offers I don't mean. I want to know you. All of you. The woman who works double shifts and sends tipsy photographs to dangerous men. The one who thinks she has me figured out but doesn't know the half of it. I should have said no. Every survival instinct I'd honed over 26 years of playing it safe screamed at me to walk away, but sitting across from Dante Moretti, feeling the full force of his attention focused solely on me, I couldn't find the word. "One dinner," I heard myself say, "but I choose the restaurant." His smile this time was genuine, transforming his face from intimidating to devastating. "Deal. Though I should warn you, I don't do casual piccola. When I decide I want something, I commit completely." Is that a threat or a promise? Both. I spent the entire afternoon second-guessing my decision. As I wiped down tables and refilled salt shakers, my mind spun with possibilities. What had I been thinking? Agreeing to dinner with a man like Dante? Sarah's voice in my head alternated between excited squeals and dire warnings about sleeping with the fishes. At 6 p.m., just as my shift was ending, a sleek black car pulled up outside Marco's. The driver, a mountain of a man in a dark suit, stepped out and walked directly to me as I was untying my apron. "Miss Emma Torres?" His voice was surprisingly gentle for someone who looked like he could bench press a building. "That's me," I confirmed nervously. "Mr. Moretti asked me to deliver this." He handed me an elegant shopping bag with a note attached. I opened the note with shaking hands. "You said you'd choose the restaurant, Piccola. I never said I wouldn't choose your outfit. Wear this tonight. I'll pick you up at 8. D." Inside the bag was the most beautiful dress I'd ever seen. Midnight blue silk that shimmered in the light. Elegant yet daring, with a price tag I didn't even want to imagine. There were also shoes, a clutch, and jewelry that had to be real diamonds, because costume jewelry didn't sparkle like that. "This is too much," I told the driver. "I can't accept this." He smiled slightly. "Mr. Moretti anticipated you might say that. He asked me to remind you that he always gets what he wants, and what he wants is to see you in that dress tonight." The presumption should have annoyed me. Instead, I found myself charmed by his confidence, by the way he'd somehow known my size perfectly, by the fact that he'd put thought into this rather than just throwing money around. Sarah nearly had a heart attack when she saw the dress. "Oh my God, Emma, this is Valentino." "Valentino? Do you know how much this costs?" "I don't want to know," I admitted, running my fingers over the silk. "Is this crazy? Tell me honestly, am I making a huge mistake?" She studied me for a long moment. "You know what? I don't think so. I've never seen you like this before. Excited, scared, actually living. Since I've known you, you've been so careful, so controlled. Maybe it's time to let go a little. With a mafia boss? With a man who clearly wants you," she corrected. "Yes, he's dangerous. Yes, this could end badly. But Emma, what if it doesn't? What if this is your chance at something extraordinary?" I thought about that as I got ready, as I slipped into the dress that fit like it had been made for my body specifically. The woman looking back at me in the mirror wasn't the careful waitress who played it safe. She was confident, powerful, beautiful. She was the woman who'd sent that photo last night, the real me I'd been hiding for so long. At exactly 8 p.m., my doorbell rang. I grabbed the clutch, took a deep breath, and opened the door. Dante stood in my hallway, in a perfectly tailored tuxedo, looking like every dangerous fantasy I'd ever had come to life. His eyes widened slightly when he saw me, and for just a moment, his carefully controlled expression cracked to show pure male appreciation. "Bellissima," he breathed. "I knew that dress would be perfect on you." "How did you know my size?" I asked, stepping out and locking my door. "I notice everything about you, Emma. Have for 3 months." He offered his arm. "Your car awaits." The car turned out to be a vintage Rolls-Royce, complete with champagne chilling in a bucket. As we pulled away from my modest apartment building, Dante poured 2 glasses with practiced ease. "You never told me where we're going," he noted, handing me a glass. "Salvatore's," I said, naming a small family-run Italian place on the south side. It wasn't fancy, nothing like the restaurants someone like Dante probably frequented, but the food was incredible, and I wanted to see how he'd react to my choice. His expression softened. "My grandmother used to take me there when I was a boy, before she passed." "I'm sorry," I said quietly. "We can go somewhere else if—" "No." He covered my hand with his, the touch sending electricity up my arm. "It's perfect. You continue to surprise me, Piccola. Why do you call me that?" He was quiet for a moment, his thumb tracing circles on my hand. "Because when I look at you, I see someone who needs protection, someone pure in a world that tried to make her hard. You work yourself to exhaustion, probably send money to someone who needs it, and smile through difficulties that would break most people. You're small, but fierce, and I find myself wanting to shelter you from everything ugly." His words hit deeper than I expected. "I don't need protection. Everyone needs protection, Emma. The question is whether they're brave enough to accept it." He paused as the car pulled up to Salvatore's, "and whether they find someone worthy of trusting." The restaurant was exactly as I remembered. Warm lighting, checkered tablecloths, the smell of garlic and tomatoes filling the air. But when we walked in, something shifted. The owner, Carlo, went pale when he saw Dante. "Mr. Moretti," he stammered. "We didn't know you were coming. Please, our best table." "The lady made a reservation," Dante interrupted smoothly. "Whatever table she chose is fine." Carlo looked between us with barely concealed shock, then led us to a corner booth. As we walked through the restaurant, I noticed how every person watched us, some with fear, some with curiosity, all with respect for the man at my side. "They're afraid of you," I observed once we were seated. "Yes. Does that bother you?" He considered the question seriously. "It's necessary. In my world, fear keeps people alive, keeps them from making stupid decisions, keeps order." He met my eyes. "But I don't want you to fear me, Emma." "I don't," I realized. "I probably should, but I don't." "Why?" "Because I've watched you for 3 months too," I admitted. "I've seen how you treat people when you think no one's looking. You're not just the man everyone fears. You're also the one who paid for Rose's surgery, who helped that mother with her tire, who leaves enough tips to keep this entire restaurant afloat." Something raw and vulnerable flashed across his face. "No one's ever seen that before." Then they weren't looking closely enough. Dinner at Salvatore's revealed layers of Dante I never could have imagined. He spoke Italian with Carlo's wife, Maria, making her blush like a schoolgirl. He remembered details about his grandmother's favorite dishes, his voice softening with genuine affection. He asked about my life with real interest, not the polite small talk of previous encounters, but deep questions about my dreams, my fears, what kept me up at night. "Tell me about foster care," he said over our second course. Most people avoided the topic, uncomfortable with the reality of my childhood. But Dante leaned forward, giving me his complete attention. "What do you want to know?" "Everything. What shaped you into this woman who sends provocative photos to dangerous men but chooses family restaurants for first dates?" I took a sip of wine, gathering courage. "I bounced around 12 homes between ages 6 and 18. Some were okay, some..." I trailed off, not wanting to dive into those memories. It taught me to be self-sufficient, to not need anyone, to keep my head down and work hard because that's the only reliable path forward. "And yet you took a risk on me." "I did," I agreed. "I'm still not sure why." His hand found mine across the table. "Because you're tired of playing it safe. Because something in you recognizes something in me. Because we're both people who've learned to survive in worlds that tried to break us." "Are we really that similar?" I challenged. "You're powerful, wealthy, feared. I'm a waitress barely making rent. You think power and money mean I haven't suffered?" His expression hardened slightly. "I inherited my father's empire at 25 because someone put 3 bullets in his chest. My mother died when I was 8. My younger sister..." He stopped, pain flashing across his face. "She overdosed 2 years ago because I failed to protect her from the life I was trying to shield her from." My heart clenched at the raw grief in his voice. "Dante, I'm so sorry." "Don't be sorry. Be honest with me." His grip on my hand tightened. "Everyone either fears me or wants something from me. But you looked at me like I was just a man you were brave enough to tease, to challenge, to see beyond the reputation. That's why I'm here, Emma. Because for the first time in years, someone made me feel human." The intensity of his confession left me breathless. This wasn't just dinner anymore. It was 2 broken people recognizing their reflection in each other. "I do see you," I whispered. "The real you. Then see this too." He pulled out his phone, showing me a photo of a teenage girl with Dante's dark eyes and bright smile. This was Lucia, my sister. She was 17 when she died. She wanted to be a teacher, loved poetry, rescued stray cats. She was everything good I was trying to protect, and I lost her anyway. Tears stung my eyes. She was beautiful. She would have liked you. He put the phone away, his expression raw. You remind me of her in some ways. That strength wrapped in softness. The way you care about people. The goodness that refuses to be hardened by circumstances. What happened to her? The life. She saw things, knew things. I tried to keep her separate, but in families like mine, there's no real separation. She started using to cope with the nightmares. I sent her to the best facilities, hired the best therapists. But in the end, his voice cracked slightly. She couldn't escape what she'd witnessed, what she'd become because of me. I squeezed his hand, offering silent comfort. In that moment, I understood why Dante was how he was. The control, the power, the fear he commanded. It was all armor against more loss. It wasn't your fault, I said firmly. Everyone says that. No one means it. I mean it. I held his gaze. You did everything you could. Sometimes loving someone isn't enough to save them from themselves. He studied me for a long moment, something shifting in his expression. How are you real, Emma Torres? Before I could answer, the restaurant door burst open. 3 men in leather jackets strode in, their intentions clearly not innocent. The lead one, tattoos covering his neck, scar across his cheek, scanned the room until his eyes landed on our booth. "Moretti," he called out, his voice carrying menace. "We need to talk." The temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. Dante's entire demeanor changed in an instant. The vulnerable man who'd just shared his deepest pain vanished, replaced by the dangerous Don everyone feared. He stood slowly, positioning himself between me and the intruders. "Salvatore's is neutral territory, Dimitri," Dante said calmly. "You know the rules. Rules changed when you took out my brother." Dimitri's hand moved toward his jacket. My heart hammered. This was real. This was the danger everyone had warned me about. And I was sitting in the middle of it, because I'd been foolish enough to send a photo to a man I didn't really understand. "Emma," Dante said quietly, not looking away from Dimitri. "When I say move, you're going to walk calmly to the kitchen. Carlo will get you out the back. Do you understand? I'm not leaving you," I said, surprised by the steadiness in my voice. "This isn't negotiable. Neither am I." Something flickered in his expression. Surprise, admiration, maybe even pride. But before either of us could act, the situation exploded into chaos. Everything happened in seconds. Dimitri reached for his weapon. Dante moved with lethal grace, crossing the distance between them before the gun fully cleared the jacket. The crash of bodies hitting the floor sent dishes flying. Screams erupted. The other 2 men lunged forward, but 3 of Dante's security, who I now realized had been positioned throughout the restaurant, intercepted them with brutal efficiency. I should have been terrified. Should have run for the kitchen like Dante ordered. Instead, I grabbed a wine bottle from the nearest table and positioned myself behind him, ready to defend if needed. The absurdity of it. Me, a waitress, thinking I could help in a fight involving actual criminals. Would have been funny if my adrenaline wasn't spiking so hard I could taste metal. Dante had Dimitri pinned, forearm across his throat. "You come to a family restaurant, threaten me in front of a lady, and break neutral territory rules?" His voice was ice. "Your brother died because he was stupid enough to steal from me. Don't follow his example." "This isn't over," Dimitri choked out. "It is. Because you're going to walk out of here. Tell your boss that coming after me will end your entire organization, and pray I'm feeling merciful enough to let this disrespect slide." Dante pressed harder, cutting off Dimitri's air. "Are we clear?" Dimitri nodded frantically. Dante released him, stepping back in one fluid motion. His security had the other 2 men restrained but not seriously hurt. The message was clear. Dante could have killed them all easily but chose not to. "Get out," Dante ordered. "And Dimitri, if I see you again, you won't leave walking." The 3 men scrambled for the exit. As soon as the door closed behind them, Dante's shoulders relaxed slightly. He turned to me, his expression transforming from deadly to concerned in an instant. "Are you okay?" He reached for me, checking for injuries. "Did they touch you? Are you hurt?" "I'm fine," I managed, though my hands were shaking. "You?" This was nothing. He noticed the wine bottle still clutched in my hand, and something like amusement crossed his face. "Were you going to defend me with Chianti?" "If I had to, yes." He laughed, a real, genuine laugh that made him look younger, less burdened. "Piccola, you're either the bravest woman I've ever met or the most foolish. I told you I wasn't afraid of you." "No," he agreed, pulling me against his chest. His heart was racing despite his calm exterior. You're not, which is both terrifying and the most attractive thing about you. Carlo rushed over, apologizing profusely. Dante waved him off, pressing a roll of bills into his hand that had to be thousands, for any damages, and for keeping Emma safe. Mr. Moretti, I'm so sorry. I don't know how it's handled. Dante kept one arm around me. We're leaving. The drive back to my apartment was quiet. Dante held my hand, his thumb drawing absent patterns on my skin. I could feel the tension radiating off him, the careful control he was maintaining. I shouldn't have brought you into this, he finally said as we pulled up to my building. This is my life, Emma. Violence, threats, constant danger. You deserve better. Shouldn't I decide what I deserve? You don't know what you're saying. He turned to face me. Tonight was mild. There will be worse. There always is. The women in my life, they either get hurt or they become hard. I watched it happen to my mother, my sister. I won't do that to you. So that's it? One date and you're deciding for me? I'm protecting you. I don't need your protection, I said, echoing his earlier words back to him. What I need is honesty. If you want to end this, tell me it's because you don't feel it. But don't use your life as an excuse. He stared at me, conflict warring in his expression. You have no idea what you're asking for. Then show me. I surprised myself with the boldness. Show me your world. Let me decide if I can handle it. And when you can't, when you run screaming or worse, when you get hurt because of me, that's my risk to take. It's mine too. His voice dropped. Because if something happened to you, Emma, if you got hurt because I was selfish enough to keep you close. He stopped, jaw clenching. I've lost everyone I've ever loved. I won't survive losing you too. The confession hung between us, raw and honest. He'd said loved, not in present tense, but the implication was clear. He was already fallen, and so was I. Take me upstairs, I said quietly. Emma, just for coffee, just to talk, unless you're afraid of me now. That got a small smile. Terrified, my apartment felt smaller with Dante in it. He moved through the space like he belonged there, examining the cheap furniture and secondhand decorations I'd scraped together, the books overflowing from shelves, the photos of Sarah and me at various Chicago landmarks. No family photos, he observed. Foster care, remember? I have people I stayed with, but no one I'd call family, except Sarah. He picked up a frame showing Sarah and me at Navy Pier, both of us laughing. She's important to you. The closest thing to a sister I've ever had. Then I'll make sure she's protected too. The casual way he said it, like extending his protection to anyone I cared about, was a given, made my chest tight. This man, this dangerous, powerful man, was offering me everything without asking for anything in return. I made coffee, my hands steadier now. When I brought it to the couch where he'd settled, he pulled me down next to him, close enough that our thighs touched. Ask me anything, he said. If I'm going to let you into this world, you deserve to know what you're getting into. Is it true what they say? About your family's business? Depends what they say. We run legitimate operations. Real estate, construction, restaurants, nightclubs. But yes, there are other revenue streams. Protection, gambling, some imports that don't go through official channels. Do you hurt people? When necessary. He didn't flinch from the truth. I'm not a good man, Emma. I've done things that would horrify you. But I have rules. No drugs. That's what killed my sister. No human trafficking. No targeting civilians. In my world, we handle our own. And we take care of our communities. The people in my neighborhoods? They're safer than in most of Chicago. Their businesses protected. Their families watched over. Like Robin Hood with better suits? He laughed softly. Something like that. Though Robin Hood probably killed fewer people. I should have been disturbed. Should have kicked him out and blocked his number. Instead, I found myself asking, what happened to your parents? My father was killed by a rival family. They wanted to take over our territory. Thought removing him would weaken us. It didn't. It just made us angrier. My mother... He paused. Old pain surfacing. She never recovered from his death. Died of a broken heart, they said. Really, it was pills and alcohol and the weight of knowing what her husband truly was. And you were 25. 25 and suddenly responsible for an empire, a teenager sister, dozens of families who depended on us for their livelihoods. I grew up fast. Had to. I'm sorry you had to face that alone. I wasn't alone. I had my cousin Marco, my father's most trusted man, the structure he'd built. But yes, it was isolating. Until tonight, I'd forgotten what it felt like to talk to someone who saw past all of it. He set down his coffee, turning to face me fully. You make me want things I gave up on wanting years ago. Normal things. A relationship not based on fear or obligation. Someone to come home to. A future that's more than just surviving. I want those things too, I admitted. I've just never met anyone who made me brave enough to reach for them. Until you sent that photo. Until I sent that photo, I agreed, smiling, though I'm still not sure what possessed me. Fate. He reached up, tucking a strand of hair behind my ear. Or stupidity. Maybe both. You're not exactly making a great case for yourself here. I know. His hand cupped my cheek, thumb brushing my lower lip. But I'm going to anyway, because walking away from you isn't an option anymore. You're in my head, under my skin. I want you, Emma. All of you. Your mornings and your nights and everything in between. My breath caught. Dante, I'll keep you safe. I'll give you anything you want. But I won't apologize for wanting you. For taking what you offered last night when you sent that picture. The heat in his eyes. The promise in his words. It was overwhelming. I'd started this as a joke. A moment of wine-fueled courage. Now I was sitting in my apartment with Chicago's most dangerous man, telling me he wanted everything. And God help me. I wanted to give it to him. I'm scared, I whispered. Good. Fear means you're smart enough to understand what this is. He leaned closer, his lips inches from mine. But are you brave enough to do it anyway? I answered by closing the distance between us, pressing my lips to his in a kiss that felt like jumping off a cliff and finding wings. He groaned, one hand tangling in my hair, the other pulling me closer until I was practically in his lap. The kiss was consuming, demanding, a claiming that left no doubt about his intentions. When we finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Dante rested his forehead against mine. Game over, Piccola. You're mine now. And despite everything, the danger, the uncertainty, the absolute insanity of falling for a man like him, I found myself smiling. Game over, I agreed. The next week passed in a blur of stolen moments and increasingly bold public displays that made Dante's world take notice. He picked me up from work every day in different luxury cars, each arrival causing more whispers among my coworkers. The modest tips he used to leave evolved into $1,000 bills that Tony tried to refuse until Dante casually mentioned he could always find new management for the restaurant. Sarah alternated between excitement and concern, especially after I told her about the restaurant incident. You know this is crazy, right? She said over coffee on my day off. Like, objectively insane. You're dating a Mafia boss, Em. I know. I couldn't keep the smile off my face. But Sarah, when I'm with him, I feel more alive than I ever have. He sees me. Really sees me. Not the careful waitress, not the foster kid who learned to be invisible. Just me. And when the bullets start flying, because they will, Em, that's his world. She wasn't wrong. Since our first date, I'd noticed the security detail that now shadowed me everywhere. At first it was unsettling. 2 large men in suits following me to the grocery store, sitting in cars outside my apartment. But Dante explained that Dimitri's boss, Volkov, was the type to hold grudges. Until the situation was resolved, I needed protection. Nothing will happen to you, Dante had promised, his voice hard. I've put my best people on you, and I'm handling Volkov personally. I learned quickly that handling personally meant things I probably didn't want details about. Twice that week, Dante showed up at my door with bruised knuckles and blood on his shirt that definitely wasn't his. He never explained, and I didn't ask. Some things were better left unspoken, but he was gentle with me, always. The contrast between Dante the Dawn and Dante the man who brought me flowers and called just to hear my voice was startling. He took me to a private art gallery showing where the artist nearly fainted meeting him. We had dinner on the roof of his building overlooking the entire city. He sent food to Marco's during my double shifts with notes that made me blush. The notes were my favorite part. Little messages that revealed layers of his personality I'd never have guessed existed. Thinking about you in that blue dress. Can't focus on work. This is your fault. D. My security chief says you tried to lose your detail to buy groceries alone. Nice try, Piccola. They're professionals. Also, I love your stubbornness. Counting the hours until I see you again. Who knew a waitress would bring the most powerful man in Chicago to his knees? That last one came with a diamond bracelet I tried to return, until Dante showed up at my apartment and fastened it on my wrist himself. Gifts from me aren't returned, Emma. They're tokens of what you mean to me, and you mean everything. Everything. The word terrified and thrilled me in equal measure. On Friday night, Dante took me to one of his clubs, an upscale lounge called Noir that pulsed with music and beautiful people. The moment we walked in, the crowd parted like the Red Sea. A private booth was waiting, champagne already chilling, and I noticed how every employee moved with military precision to accommodate his presence. "This is yours?" I asked, taking in the elegant space. One of 12 I own throughout the city. He pulled me close, his hand possessive on my waist. "But tonight I'm showing you off, letting everyone know you're under my protection. Is that necessary?" His expression darkened. "Yes. In my world, perception is everything. The more people who know you're mine, the safer you are. Anyone who touches you knows they're signing their death warrant." The casual way he discussed violence should have disturbed me. Instead, I felt oddly secure. This was Dante's way of caring, through power, protection, absolute control over potential threats. We'd barely settled into the booth when a stunning woman in a red dress approached. She was model beautiful, with legs for days and confidence that radiated like heat. But when her eyes landed on Dante, something calculating flickered across her face. "Dante," she purred, completely ignoring me. "It's been too long." "Victoria." His tone was cool, polite, but distant. "I thought you moved to New York." "I'm back." She slid into the booth uninvited, positioning herself deliberately close to him. "I've missed our conversations." I felt a spike of jealousy that surprised me. "I don't believe we've met," I said, extending my hand with more force than necessary. "I'm Emma, Dante's girlfriend." The word felt strange coming out. We'd never officially defined what we were, but Dante's hand immediately covered mine, squeezing approvingly. "Girlfriend?" Victoria's laugh was practiced, dismissive. "Dante doesn't do girlfriends, sweetheart. He does arrangements, temporary distractions." Her eyes raked over me. "How long do you think you'll last? A month? 2? "Victoria," Dante's voice cut like a blade. "You need to leave, now. But we have so much catching up to." I said leave. The temperature dropped. Everyone in the vicinity froze, sensing the shift in his demeanor. "Emma is not a distraction. She's mine. And if you disrespect her again, you'll find yourself on a plane back to New York, without the resources that allowed you to come back in the first place." Victoria went pale. Clearly Dante was funding whatever brought her back to Chicago. She stood quickly, smoothing her dress. "Of course. My apologies." She practically ran away. I turned to Dante, questions tumbling out. Who was that? What did she mean by arrangements? He sighed, pulling me against his side. "My past. Before I met you, there were women. Transactions, really. They wanted access to my world. I wanted company. Nothing that mattered. Nothing like this. How many women? Does it matter?" He lifted my chin, forcing me to meet his eyes. "None of them were you, Emma. None of them made me feel like I could breathe for the first time in years. You're not an arrangement. You're everything I didn't know I needed." The intensity in his voice melted my jealousy. "I've never done this before," I admitted. "This whole relationship thing. I've had a few dates over the years, but nothing serious. I never let anyone close enough. Neither have I." "Not really." His thumb traced my jawline. "We'll figure it out together. Make our own rules. And if I mess up, if I don't fit into your world, then I'll change my world to fit you." The promise was overwhelming. Before I could respond, Marco, Dante's cousin and second in command, approached the booth. He was shorter than Dante but built like a tank, with kind eyes that contrasted sharply with his scarred knuckles. "Boss, we got a problem. Volkov's men hit the warehouse on 5th Street. 3 of ours are in the hospital." Dante's entire body tensed. "Casualties? No deaths, but Tony Jr. took a bullet to the shoulder. He'll live, but he's pissed. I need to handle this." Dante stood, already shifting into Don Modi. He turned to me, conflict clear on his face. "I have to go. Marco will take you home. Make sure." "I'm coming with you," I interrupted. "Absolutely not. This is dangerous, Emma. Real danger, not some restaurant confrontation." "Then teach me." I stood, matching his intensity. "You said you wanted me in your life. This is your life. Stop trying to shield me from it. She's got a point, Marco interjected, earning a glare from Dante. What? She does. You can't keep her in a bubble, Dee. Either she's in or she's not. Dante looked between us, jaw clenched. Finally, he grabbed my hand. Fine, but you stay in the car. You don't move, you don't speak, you don't even breathe loud. Understand? Understood. The drive to the warehouse was tense. Dante made calls in rapid Italian, his voice hard and commanding. Marco briefed him on details. How many men Volkov sent, what they took, the extent of damages. I sat quietly, watching Dante transform fully into the man everyone feared. When we arrived, the scene was chaos. Police lights flashed, but officers stayed back, clearly paid to look the other way. Dante's men surrounded the building, weapons visible, faces grim. The warehouse doors were blown open, smoke still rising from whatever explosive they'd used. Stay here, Dante ordered, kissing my forehead quickly. Lock the doors. If anything happens, Marco's driver will get you out. I nodded, watching as he strode into the chaos with absolute authority. Men parted for him, reporting in clipped sentences. I could see him assessing, calculating, rage barely controlled beneath his calm exterior. Then I saw movement in the shadows behind him, a figure raising a gun. My scream pierced the night. Dante! Everything happened in slow motion. Dante turned. His security rushed forward. Gunfire erupted. I watched in horror as Dante dropped to the ground. I was out of the car before conscious thought, running toward him despite every promise I'd made. Hands tried to grab me, but I was too fast, too desperate. I fell to my knees beside him, seeing blood spreading across his white shirt. No, 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 I sobbed, pressing my hands against the wound in his side. Dante, stay with me, please. His eyes focused on mine, pain and something like wonder in them. You came for me. Of course I did, you idiot. Tears streamed down my face. Don't you dare die on me. Not planning to. He winced. But Piccola, you were supposed to stay in the car. Since when do I follow your orders? Despite everything, he smiled. Never. Should have known better. Around us, Dante's men had the shooter captured and screaming. Marco was barking orders for medical assistance, but all I could see was the blood on my hands, the pallor in Dante's face. I love you, I blurted out, needing him to know. I know it's crazy and fast and completely insane, but I love you. His hand came up, touching my face with surprising gentleness. Emma Torres, you're going to be the death of me. He coughed, grimacing. Or my salvation. Haven't decided which yet. The ambulance arrived then, paramedics pushing me aside. They loaded Dante onto a stretcher, Marco climbing in with them. I stood there, covered in his blood, shaking, realizing that this was real. This was the world I'd chosen. And despite the terror, despite watching the man I loved get shot, I knew I wasn't walking away. The hospital waiting room became my home for the next 36 hours. Dante's men filled the space, turning it into an armed camp that had security guards nervously hovering. Marco stayed with me, bringing coffee and food I couldn't eat, explaining in patient detail what had happened. Volkov had escalated. The warehouse hit was meant to draw Dante out, set up an ambush. The shooter had been one of their best, positioned perfectly. If I hadn't screamed, if Dante hadn't turned when he did, the bullet would have hit center mass instead of grazing his ribs. You saved his life, Marco told me for the 5th time. The doctor said another inch to the right and he'd have bled out before reaching the hospital. I couldn't process that. Couldn't process any of this. My hands still shook, still felt sticky with Dante's blood, even after washing them a dozen times. Sarah arrived around midnight, having heard through Tony about what happened. She took one look at me and pulled me into a fierce hug. You love him, she stated, not a question. I do. The admission felt like free-falling. I love him, and he almost died, and I don't know what to do with that. You survive it. That's what you do. She pulled back, studying my face. This is his world, Em. It won't get easier. Can you handle that? Could I? Watching Dante get shot had been the most terrifying moment of my life, but the thought of walking away from him, of not being there when he woke up, that was worse. I can handle it, I said, surprising myself with the conviction in my voice. I have to, because I'm not losing him. Dante woke up around dawn. The doctor allowed me in first, and I found him pale but alert, tubes and monitors tracking his vitals. His eyes locked on mine the moment I entered. "Piccola," his voice was hoarse. "You're really here. I thought I dreamed that. I'm here." I took his hand carefully, mindful of the IV. "You scared me. I scared myself." He winced, trying to sit up. "Did you mean it? What you said? That I love you?" My throat tightened. "Yes. I know it's fast. I know it's... Say it again. I love you, Dante Moretti. I love you even though you're reckless and dangerous and you got yourself shot. I love you despite knowing better." His smile was radiant despite the pain. "I love you too. Have since you sent that damn photo. Maybe even before that. Watching you work, seeing your kindness, wanting to know everything about you. Even the part where I don't follow orders. Especially that part." He squeezed my hand. "You ran into gunfire for me, Emma. No one's ever done that. They run from danger, from me. But you ran toward it. You would have done the same for me. In a heartbeat." His expression turned serious. "But that's exactly why we need to talk. Volkov isn't stopping. He wants war, and war means casualties. I can't..." He stopped, struggling with words. "I can't lose you. If something happened to you because of me, I wouldn't survive it. So what are you saying?" "I'm saying I need to end this. Permanently. Which means doing things you're not going to like. Dark things. The part of me I've tried to keep from you." I understood what he meant. The violence, the ruthlessness that came with protecting his empire. "Do what you need to do," I said quietly. "But don't shut me out. Whatever darkness you have, I can handle it. You don't know what you're saying." "I know exactly what I'm saying. I see you, Dante. All of you. The good, the bad, the terrifying, and I love all of it." He pulled me down gently, kissing me with a tenderness that contrasted sharply with the conversation. "You're either the bravest woman alive or completely insane. Can I be both?" That got a laugh that turned into a wince. "Don't make me laugh. Hurts like hell." The doctor came in then, shooing me out so they could examine him. Marco caught me in the hallway, his expression grave. "We found the shooter. He's in the basement of the club." His meaning was clear. "Dante will want to handle it personally once he's recovered." "How long?" "Doctor says at least a week before he should be moving around. But knowing D, 3 days, maybe 4. He was right. 72 hours later, Dante discharged himself against medical advice, claiming he had business to handle. I tried to convince him to rest, but the look in his eyes told me this wasn't negotiable. "Come with me," he said, surprising me. "Not to the interrogation, but after. I want you to see what justice looks like in my world." I should have refused. Should have drawn a line. Instead, I found myself in the back of his car, driving to a warehouse on the outskirts of the city. Marco was already there, along with a dozen of Dante's most trusted men. "Wait here," Dante instructed, kissing my forehead. "This won't take long." Through the warehouse windows, I could see shadows, hear raised voices, then screaming. I closed my eyes, knowing what was happening, what Dante was doing. The man who'd tried to kill him was paying the price, brutally. When Dante emerged 20 minutes later, there was blood on his hands, literally, but his expression was calm, satisfied. He cleaned off methodically before getting in the car. "It's done," he said simply. The shooter talked, gave up Volkov's location, his plans, everything. And now Volkov knows what happens to people who come after what's mine. "Is he dead?" I asked. "The shooter? Does it matter?" It should have. Should have made me sick, made me question everything. Instead, I felt oddly relieved. This was justice in Dante's world. Swift, brutal, final. And it meant we were safer. "What happens now?" I asked. "Now? I end this war before it really starts. Volkov wanted to test me, see if I'd gotten soft. Time to remind Chicago why my family has held power for 3 generations. Over the next week, I watched Dante orchestrate a campaign that was part chess match, part military operation. Businesses that supported Volkov suddenly faced code violations. Shipments disappeared. Key lieutenants got arrested on charges that stuck. Dante moved pieces with surgical precision, never directly implicating himself, always 3 steps ahead. And when Volkov finally reached out to negotiate, Dante's terms were non-negotiable. Complete withdrawal from all Chicago operations, a formal apology, and reparations for damages. Volkov accepted within hours. "That's it?" I asked when Dante told me. He just agreed. He knows I could have destroyed him completely. This way, He gets to leave with dignity, his organization intact, just relocated. Dante pulled me onto his lap, careful of his still healing wound. Mercy, when strategic, is more powerful than vengeance. You're full of surprises, says the woman who ran into gunfire for me. He kissed my neck. Speaking of which, we need to discuss your complete disregard for self-preservation. You would have done the same. That's different. Why? Because you're the big bad mafia boss and I'm just a waitress? Because I'm expendable and you're not. This world needs you, Emma. I need you. You make me better. Make me remember there's more to life than power and control. The sincerity in his voice undid me. You're not expendable. Don't ever say that. Then promise me something. He cupped my face. Promise you'll be more careful. That you'll trust my security. Follow the protocols. I can handle threats. Handle violence. What I can't handle is losing you. I promise. If you promise to stop trying to shelter me from everything. We're partners, Dante. That means we face things together. Partners. He tested the word. I like that. Though my lawyers might have a different term for it. What do you mean? He pulled a small velvet box from his pocket. My heart stopped. I mean, he said, opening it to reveal a stunning diamond ring, that I want to make this official, legal, permanent. Marry me, Emma Torres. Be my wife, my partner, my everything. I stared at the ring, at Dante's hopeful expression, trying to process. We've known each other for 3 months. 3 months that changed my entire life. I'm not asking you to answer right now. I know it's fast, probably insane, but I also know I've never been more certain of anything. You're it for me, the end game, the only future I want. Tears blurred my vision. Every logical part of my brain screamed this was crazy. You didn't marry mafia bosses after 3 months. You didn't build a life with dangerous men who attracted violence like magnets. But my heart, my stubborn, foolish heart, knew the truth. I was already his. Had been since that first text message, maybe even before. And walking away now would destroy me more completely than any bullet. Yes, I whispered. Yes, I'll marry you. His kiss was fierce, claiming a promise of everything to come. When we finally broke apart, he slid the ring onto my finger with shaking hands. You just agreed to marry the most dangerous man in Chicago, he said against my lips. I know. Must be love. Or insanity. Definitely both. The engagement ring felt like a brand, marking me as Dante's, in a way that made his world take notice. Within 48 hours, everyone from rival families to business associates knew that Dante Moretti was off the market. I wasn't just his girlfriend anymore. I was his future wife, his chosen partner, someone who commanded respect by association. Marco threw us an engagement party at Noir, inviting what felt like half of Chicago's underworld. I stood beside Dante in a champagne-colored dress he'd chosen, greeting people whose names I recognized from news reports about organized crime investigations. They kissed my hand, congratulated Dante, and looked at me with either respect or calculation. Smile, Piccola, Dante murmured in my ear. They're assessing you, wondering if you're strong enough to be a Don's wife. And what's the verdict? That I chose well. That you saved my life and didn't run. That makes you either incredibly brave or incredibly useful. The clinical assessment should have bothered me. Instead, I understood it. In Dante's world, everything was strategic. Even love had political implications. Sarah attended the party, her eyes wide at the display of wealth and power. This is insane, she whispered, pulling me aside. Emma, these people, they're criminals, actual criminals, and you're marrying their boss. I know what they are, what he is. I glanced across the room at Dante, who was deep in conversation with several older men. But I also know who he is underneath, the man who cries over his sister's photo, who funds scholarships for foster kids, who makes me feel seen for the first time in my life. That doesn't excuse. I'm not asking it to excuse anything. I'm just saying people are complicated. Dante is complicated, and I love him anyway. She studied me for a long moment. You're different, stronger somehow, more confident. Being with him does that. He expects me to be strong, doesn't let me hide or play it safe. The wedding planning began immediately. Dante's Aunt Gabriella, a formidable woman who'd helped raise him after his mother died, took charge with military precision. Designer dress fittings, venues that could accommodate 500 guests, security protocols that rivaled presidential visits. It's important that we do this right, Gabriella explained during one planning session. The wedding of a dawn is a statement. It shows strength, unity, family. People will judge everything from the flowers to the guest list. What if I just wanted something small? I ventured. Her laugh was kind but firm. Cara, you fell in love with Dante Moretti. Small was never an option. This wedding announces your position, legitimizes your role. It's not just about love, though obviously that's important. It's about power. Everything was about power. I was learning that lesson daily. But there were beautiful moments too. Dante took me to his childhood home in the suburbs, a sprawling estate that had been his grandparents'. We walked through rooms filled with family photos and memories, and he told me stories about his sister, his parents, the life before responsibility consumed him. I want to raise our children here, he said, standing in what had been his bedroom. Give them the stability I lost too young. Children? My heart skipped. We've never discussed. I want everything with you, Emma. Children, decades of mornings, growing old together. He pulled me close. Unless you don't want that. I do. I'm still processing that this is real. That you're real. 2 weeks before the wedding, Victoria returned. I was at the final dress fitting when she appeared, somehow having talked her way past security. She looked worse than before. Thinner, more desperate. Mascara smudged. Emma, right? She approached with fake friendliness. We should talk. Woman to woman. Gabriella moved to intervene, but I waved her off. What do you want, Victoria? To warn you. About what you're getting into. Who you're marrying. I know exactly who I'm marrying. Do you? She laughed bitterly. Do you know about the bodies? The people who disappear when they cross him? Yes, actually, I do. That stopped her. And you're okay with it? What I'm okay with is none of your business. But since you're here, let me make something clear. I stepped closer. Whatever you had with him is over. I'm not threatened by you. And if you continue to insert yourself into our lives, I'll handle you myself. Gabriella actually smiled. Victoria went pale. You can't threaten me, Victoria stammered. I could go to the police. About what? Your own criminal activities? Because Dante's lawyers have very thorough files on you, Victoria. So please, try something. I'd love to see how that works out. Victoria fled. That night, when I told Dante about the confrontation, he listened with growing pride. You threatened her? I may have implied you had leverage. I do now. He pulled me into his lap. But I'm impressed you handled it yourself. Most people would have come running to me. I don't need protection from ex-girlfriends. He laughed. No, you definitely don't. You're stronger than half my men. The wedding took place on a perfect October evening at a historic Chicago venue. 500 guests filled the space. Family members, business associates, political figures. Security was everywhere. Discreet, but thorough. Sarah stood as my maid of honor. Marco was Dante's best man. Gabriella cried throughout the ceremony, but all I saw was Dante. He stood at the altar in a custom tuxedo, his eyes never leaving mine as I walked down the aisle. When I reached him, he whispered, Bellissima. The ceremony was traditional, the vows standard, but when Dante slid the wedding band onto my finger, he added his own words. I promise to protect you, cherish you, and love you every day for the rest of our lives. You saved me, Emma. In every way a person can be saved. My voice shook as I made my own promises. I promised to stand beside you, challenge you, and love you through everything. You showed me what it means to truly live, Dante. When the priest pronounced us husband and wife, Dante's kiss was both tender and possessive. I laughed against his lips, feeling lighter than I had in years. Mrs. Moretti, Dante murmured. How does it feel? Perfect. Terrifying. Right. The reception was lavish, champagne flowing, an 8-course meal, music ranging from classical to modern. Dante and I had our first dance to Frank Sinatra, and he held me like I was precious glass. Having second thoughts yet? He teased. Not even one. You? Never. Late in the evening, Marco pulled me aside. Take care of him, he said seriously. He's different with you. Happier. More human. He takes care of himself pretty well. No, he doesn't. He takes care of everyone else and forgets himself. But with you, he remembers he's allowed to want things, feel things. You're good for him, Emma. Dante and I left the reception around midnight, heading to our penthouse. The staff had already moved my belongings, transforming the space into our home. "Tired?" Dante asked, loosening his tie. "Exhausted, but happy." "Good." He pulled me close, starting to unzip my dress. "Because I planned to keep you up a while longer." That night, we consummated our marriage with passion that left us both breathless. And as I lay in Dante's arms afterward, I realized something profound. I was exactly where I was meant to be. Against all odds, I'd found my home. Not in a place, but in a person. In this complicated, dangerous, beautiful man who loved me with an intensity that both terrified and completed me. "I love you," I whispered into the darkness. "I love you too, Mrs. Moretti." His arms tightened around me. Always. Being Mrs. Moretti came with responsibilities I hadn't fully anticipated. Within weeks of the wedding, I found myself managing charitable foundations, attending political fundraisers, and learning the delicate balance of being a Don's wife. Gabriella became my mentor, teaching me which families to trust, which alliances mattered, how to navigate social situations that were really business negotiations in disguise. "You represent him now," she explained over lunch. "Every action you take reflects on Dante and the family. People will test you. Never let them see you uncertain." I practiced projecting confidence even when I felt lost, learned to smile through uncomfortable conversations, discovered how to redirect discussions while maintaining respect. But I also found ways to make the role my own. The foundation I'd taken over became my passion project. We funded scholarships for foster children, programs for single mothers, community centers in neighborhoods Dante's family protected. "You're turning the family legitimate," Marco joked one evening. "Another few years and we'll just be philanthropists." "That's the idea," Dante said, squeezing my hand. "Emma's showing me there's more than one way to hold power. Helping people creates loyalty that fear never could." Not everyone appreciated the changes. Antonio Ricci, an old-school captain, made his displeasure known during a family meeting I'd been invited to attend. "We're going soft," he argued. "Your father would be ashamed, Dante. Taking advice from a woman who knows nothing about our world." The room went silent. Dante's expression turned glacial. "Careful, Antonio. You're talking about my wife. I'm talking about reality. She's making us weak." I'd been quiet until then, observing, learning, but something in Antonio's dismissive tone triggered me. "Weak." I stood. "Let me ask you something, Antonio. How many new businesses have opened in our neighborhood since I started the community initiatives? How many families now depend on legitimate income we helped create?" He sputtered, clearly not expecting pushback. That's not what? The old way?" "You're right. The old way meant constant war, dead soldiers, police attention. My way means those neighborhoods look to us with gratitude instead of fear. When we need information, people volunteer it because they trust us. That's real power." Marco was grinning. Gabriella looked proud. Dante watched me with intense appreciation. "She's right," Dante said quietly. "The world is changing, Antonio. We change with it, or we die out. I trust her judgment." Antonio glared but backed down. After the meeting, Dante pulled me into his office, kissing me hard. That was the most attractive thing I've ever seen. I was terrified. Didn't show. "You were perfect." 2 months into our marriage, I started noticing discrepancies in the foundation's finances. Money that should have been there wasn't. When I brought it to Dante's attention, his expression darkened. "Someone's stealing. From our charity." The investigation traced the missing funds to an accountant named Richard Chen, who'd been systematically siphoning money for over a year. When they brought him in, he broke immediately. "I needed it," he sobbed. "Gambling debts. They were going to kill me." Dante sat behind his desk, every inch the dangerous Don. "So you stole from foster children? I'm sorry. I'll pay it back." "You will. Every penny, plus interest. You'll work for us until the debt is cleared. And Richard, if you ever steal again, you won't like what happens." It was harsh but fair. The old Dante might have handled it with violence. This version found middle ground. That night, I woke to find Dante at our window, staring at Chicago's skyline. "Can't sleep?" I joined him. "Thinking about Lucia. She'd be 20 now. Probably in college, making me crazy. She'd be proud of you, of what you're building." "Would she?" He turned to face me. Sometimes I wonder if I'm really changing or just putting a prettier face on the same violence. You're changing. I see it every day. He pulled me close. I don't deserve you. Good thing I don't care about deserve. I care about love. Do you ever regret it? Choosing this life? Sometimes it's scary. Sometimes I miss the simplicity. But regret? Never. You're the best thing that ever happened to me, Dante Moretti. His kiss was tender, grateful. Partners. You're stuck with me for the next 50 or 60 years. Only 50 or 60. I was hoping for at least 70. 3 months after our wedding, I discovered I was pregnant. The test showed positive on a Tuesday morning, and I stared at it for 10 minutes, trying to process. A baby. Dante's baby. I told him that night after dinner. Dante, I need to tell you something. He was reviewing contracts. I'm pregnant. His head snapped up. What? Pregnant. We're having a baby. The contract scattered as he stood, crossing to me. His hands cupped my face. You're serious? Very real. I took 3 tests. A baby. Wonder transformed his expression. Our baby. You've given me everything. Love, purpose, hope. And now this? We're making a family together. Together, he agreed. His hand moved to my stomach. I promise this child will have everything I didn't. Stability. Peace. A father who's present. The pregnancy announcement sent shockwaves through the family. Gabriella cried happy tears. Marco bought out half a toy store. Even Antonio softened slightly. But Dante's protectiveness reached new levels. He tripled my security detail. Vetted every doctor personally. You need to relax, I told him. I'll be fine. You're carrying my child. I'm not taking chances. Trust that I'll be careful. Trust us. He took a breath. I'm terrified. Of losing you, losing the baby, of not being good enough as a father. You'll be an amazing father. Our child is lucky to have you. The months passed in a blur. Dante cut back on dangerous business, delegating to Marco. He wanted to be present, involved, ready. When I went into labor on a snowy January evening, he was there holding my hand, whispering encouragement. Our daughter was born at 3:47 a.m. We named her Lucia Emma Moretti, honoring his sister and our journey. Dante cried holding her. She's perfect. Thank you, Emma, for everything. We made her together. We made everything together. Looking at my husband holding our daughter, I realized something profound. I'd started this journey as a lonely waitress playing a drunk game. Instead, I'd found my home, my family, my forever. The Mafia boss who'd whispered game over had been right. The game was over. Because we'd both already won. Thank you so much for reading. If you enjoyed this story, please like, subscribe, and drop a comment. What was your favorite moment between Emma and Dante?